welcome to the Taste China Learn English.
Hello, everyone.
I want you to imagine something for a second. Picture yourself walking down a really busy street corner in China.
Oh, I love this time of day.
Right. The sun has just set, and all those bright neon lights above the little shops are starting to, buzz and glow.
Yeah, the city is waking up for the night.
Exactly. You can hear people laughing after a long day of work. You hear like bicycles ringing their bells as they pass by, and then suddenly the wind changes direction.
I know exactly what is coming.
You are hit by a smell so powerful, it literally stops you right there on the sidewalk.
It really does stop you.
It is a thick, rich smell.
Yeah.
It's smoky, it is spicy, and it is just incredibly meaty.
Yes. I mean, I know exactly what smell you are describing. If you just follow that wonderful smoke down the street, you will find, well, the topic of our deep dive today.
Oh, absolutely.
We are dedicating this conversation to the absolute king of the Chinese night market. We are talking about the famous Chinese lamb skewer.
The legend.
In Chinese, this is known as yanggro chuan, small pieces of lamb meat roasted on a stick over an open fire.
The true king of the night market.
Mm.
We often say that the Chinese crepe, is the undisputed king of breakfast.
Right, right.
But the moment the sun goes down
Yeah.
and people want to relax, the lamb skewers take over. I mean, they rule the night.
They absolutely do. And our mission today is to explore everything about this legendary street food.
Everything.
Whether you are listening to us on a cold, freezing winter night or, a hot, sticky summer evening, we are going to take you on a journey.
A very tasty journey.
Yes. We will explore the deep historical roots of this food in the Xinjiang region, and we will uncover the culinary science behind how the meat is prepared and cooked.
And most importantly, because you are listening to improve your language skills, we are going to teach you some very useful, very descriptive English words along the way.
That is right.
We will speak at a slow, comfortable pace so you can catch the meaning of every idea.
Nice and easy.
By the end of this deep dive, you will be able to describe this amazing food perfectly in English.
That sounds like a fantastic plan.
Yeah.
So to truly understand why these lamb skewers are so famous and, why they taste so good, we actually cannot start at the night market.
We can't.
No, we have to go back to the very beginning. We have to look at exactly where the animals come from and how they're raised.
Right. So we need to travel far away from the busy city streets and head to northwest China.
Exactly. The historical roots of this famous dish lead straight to Xinjiang.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, Xinjiang is a massive, beautiful region in northwest China. It's famous for its incredible landscapes. And the Uyghur people who live there are the ones who originally created and perfected this roasting recipe over hundreds of years.
Hundreds of years of practice.
Right. But the secret of the recipe does not actually start with the chef. The secret starts with the sheep themselves.
Oh, interesting.
Because in Xinjiang, there are huge, wide open grasslands, and this is where the sheep live.
Which brings us to a very important English vocabulary word for you today. The word is graze.
Graze.
When we say animals graze, we're talking about a very specific way of eating.
Yes. When animals graze, it means they walk around freely in a large natural field, and they eat fresh, wild grass straight from the ground. They are, completely free to move.
Okay, let's unpack this for a moment. If we compare this natural grazing to standard modern farming, there is a massive difference in the quality of the food.
Oh, absolutely. Huge difference.
Right, because in standard modern farming, animals are often kept inside small buildings. They do not move much. And they're fed dried grains like corn.
Yes, very different.
But in Xinjiang, the sheep are grazing on vast, beautiful grasslands. They're walking miles and miles every single day to find food.
That is the key difference right there. Because they walk so much, they get a lot of exercise, and this builds very healthy muscles.
Makes sense.
And because they are eating wild grasses and natural herbs from the earth, Their diet is incredibly rich.
So how exactly does that change the meat?
Well, it changes the chemical makeup of the animal. The healthy exercise makes the meat naturally tender. And the diet of wild herbs flavors the fat of the sheep from the inside out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the meat tastes pure, sweet, and clean. It does not have that heavy, dull taste that factory farmed meat
Mhm.
sometimes has. I mean, the pasture, the open grass literally gives the meat its soul.
That makes perfect sense. The environment creates the flavor.
Exactly.
But, having top quality meat from a grazing sheep is really only the first part of the puzzle. You also have to cook it correctly.
Yes, you do.
And for authentic lamb skewers, you cannot use just any fire. You must use charcoal. That is our next important English word, charcoal.
Charcoal is the fuel for the fire. It is a hard black substance that looks like dark rocks.
Right, black rocks.
It is actually made from wood that has been slowly baked in an oven with very little oxygen, so all the water inside the wood is removed.
Oh, I see.
And what is left is pure carbon. When you light charcoal on fire, it gets incredibly hot. It glows bright red and produces a very steady, intense heat.
Now, I have a personal story about this, and, well, it is a bit embarrassing.
Uh-oh. Let's hear it.
I love these skewers so much that last week I tried to make them at home.
Okay.
I bought some good lamb, I put the meat on sticks, and I cooked them in my kitchen on my normal gas stove.
Oh, no.
It was a complete disaster. The meat just tasted like hot, salty lamb. It was totally boring.
Yeah, I am not surprised.
So I have to ask you, why do we absolutely need these black charcoal rocks? Why does a gas stove fail so badly?
I am smiling because that is such a common mistake.
Really? Good to know I'm not the only one.
You experience the exact reason why street food is so special. A gas stove in a kitchen gives you a very clean flame.
Right.
It produces heat, but it produces zero flavor.
Yeah, there's no magic to it at all.
The magic of charcoal is all about the smoke. When you cook meat over an open charcoal grill, the juices and the fat from the lamb slowly drip down.
Okay.
When those drops of fat hit the white, hot, glowing charcoal rocks, they vaporize instantly. They turn into a thick, beautiful cloud of smoke.
Wow.
And this smoke rises right back up and completely covers the meat on the grill.
Ah, I see. So the meat is actually being flavored by its own smoke.
Exactly. The smoke wraps around the lamb and gives it a very deep, rich, smoky aroma.
Wow.
You simply cannot get that complex, smoky flavor from a clean blue flame on a kitchen stove. The charcoal is not just a way to create heat. The charcoal is actually a vital ingredient in the recipe.
That is fascinating. So that explains why buying skewers from a street vendor standing outside in the night air with that big charcoal grill will always taste 100 times better than trying to cook them in an apartment.
You need the open air, the hot rocks, and the falling fat.
So let's review where we are in our journey. We have the perfect naturally grazed meat from the Xinjiang grasslands.
Yes.
And we have the right smoky fire from the intense heat of the charcoal. But we have not even talked about the physical stick yet.
Oh, the stick is so important.
The real culinary magic happens in how the chef actually builds the skewer before it even touches the fire.
Building the skewer is a true art form. You cannot just put random pieces of meat on a stick.
Right.
This brings us to a great English concept, the ratio.
A ratio is a mathematical word, but, we use it in cooking all the time. A ratio is simply the balance or the relationship between two different things.
Exactly. And when it comes to Yangru Chuan, a great skewer must have a very specific ratio.
Okay.
It is never just a solid line of pure meat.
Yeah.
If you only use pure red meat, the intense heat of the charcoal would dry it out completely. It would be hard to chew.
Nobody wants that.
No. The secret ratio requires a very famous, careful balance of fat and lean meat. In Chinese, this perfect combination is known as fei shou shangjian, fat and lean placed side by side.
Here is where the design gets really interesting to me. Think about how the chef builds it.
Yeah, picture it.
They slide a piece of red, lean meat onto the stick. Then they add a piece of soft, white fat. Then another piece of lean meat. There's another piece of fat.
It's a pattern.
Right. I like to think of those little pieces of fat on the stick as a built-in sauce dispenser, like a brush that glazes the meat from the inside out.
A built-in sauce dispenser. That is a brilliant way to describe the mechanism.
Thank you.
And it is scientifically accurate, too. This leads us perfectly to our next English word, which is an action word used in professional cooking. Baste.
Baste. B-A-S-T-E. What exactly is happening when we baste something?
When you baste meat, you are pouring hot fat, oil, or juices over the meat while it is cooking.
Okay.
This keeps the meat wet and adds flavor. Usually, a chef uses a spoon to scoop up hot butter and pour it over a steak. But with the lamb skewer, the basting happens automatically.
Because of the ratio.
Exactly. When the vendor places the skewer over the hot glowing charcoal, those pieces of white fat get very hot very quickly.
Right. Fat melts fast.
Yes, fat melts much faster than muscle meat cooks. So as the fat turns into hot liquid oil and it begins to drip down, it flows over the pieces of lean red meat next to it.
So as the skewer turns on the grill, that melting fat is constantly basting the lean meat. It is protecting the meat from the dry heat of the fire.
Yes, it creates a protective shield of hot oil. And this constant automatic basting leads us to our next descriptive English word.
I love learning these food words.
Because the meat is continuously basted by its own fat, the final product becomes incredibly succulent.
Succulent. That is a wonderful, highly descriptive word.
It really is.
When we say a piece of food is succulent, we mean it is bursting with juice. It is completely soft, rich, and full of flavor. It is basically the exact opposite of dry and boring.
It is a great word for our listeners to practice. When the natural fat bastes the lean meat over the charcoal, it keeps the lamb completely succulent.
Just perfect.
The meat becomes so soft and tender that it feels like it simply melts right inside your mouth when you take a bite.
The engineering of this street food is amazing.
It really is engineered perfectly.
The ratio of fat to lean creates the basting, and the basting creates a succulent texture, and the dripping fat creates the smoke from the charcoal. It is a perfect, closed culinary system.
It is highly advanced cooking, designed entirely for the outdoors.
But wait, we have the perfect texture now. The meat is succulent and melting perfectly over the charcoal. That is wonderful.
Yes.
But meat and smoke alone do not have that sharp, powerful perfume that pulls you into the night market from 3 blocks away. There is a specific aroma that travels through the city air.
That is a very important observation. Meat and smoke smell warm and inviting, sure, but they do not travel blocks and blocks.
Right.
The powerful scent that grabs your attention and makes your stomach hungry comes entirely from the spices.
Right. And for Chinese lamb skewers, there is one spice that stands above all others.
Oh, absolutely.
The absolute king of spices for this dish is cumin. Cumin is a tiny seed, usually crushed into a rough powder.
Cumin and lamb are like old best friends. They belong together.
They really do.
In fact, cumin traveled along the ancient Silk Road trading routes, right through Xinjiang centuries ago. So they share a very deep history.
So, what does this all mean for the flavor profile? Why is cumin the absolute essential spice here?
That's a great question.
I mean, I know the meat is high quality, so why can't we just use a little bit of salt and black pepper and be happy?
Well, to understand why cumin is absolutely necessary, we have to teach our listeners the word gamey.
Gamey. We use that word to describe a very specific type of taste or smell, especially with wild animals.
Yes. Gamey is the English word we use to describe the strong, heavy, earthy smell of natural meat.
Right.
Animals like wild deer, wild pigs, or sheep often have a very intense wild animal scent. That is the gamey flavor. It comes from the specific natural fatty acids in their bodies.
And if we're being honest, some people really do not like that strong gamey smell.
It's true, it's not for everyone.
If you are not used to it, the smell of sheep fat can be a little bit too intense. It can be overwhelming.
Exactly. Many people find a strong gamey flavor unpleasant, but this is exactly where cumin performs a kind of culinary magic.
Ooh, culinary magic.
Cumin contains natural, highly aromatic oils inside its seeds. When you throw ground cumin onto hot meat, the heat of the charcoal wakes up those oils.
And what happens when those cumin oils mix with the lamb fat?
They bond together chemically. The deep, warm, earthy taste of the cumin perfectly binds with the wild fat.
Oh, wow.
It does not just cover up the gamey smell, it transforms it. It takes that heavy animal scent and turns it into a warm, spicy, mouth-watering perfume. The cumin needs the gamey fat, and the gamey fat needs the cumin.
That is beautiful. But cumin is only half of the story on that grill, right?
That's right.
Timon has a famous partner. The classic spice duo for this street food is cumin and crushed red chili flakes. And the chili is there to give the food a kick,
Yes. Now, in everyday English, a kick is what you do with your foot to a soccer ball. You hit it hard.
like shaking a ball, right?
But when we're talking about food and flavor, a kick means a sudden, strong, spicy flavor that surprises your mouth.
It wakes you up. If a food has a kick, it is never boring. It is sharp and exciting.
And that brings us to the actual physical experience of standing at the night market.
My favorite part.
When you finally reach the food cart, you are standing right in front of the smoke. The vendor is moving his hands incredibly fast, turning dozens of skewers over the red-hot charcoal.
Oh, yeah, they move so fast.
He looks right at you and asks how spicy you want your food. This is a very vibrant environment.
Vibrant. That is another great descriptive word. Vibrant means full of intense energy, bright colors, and loud sounds.
Yes.
A quiet library is not vibrant. A busy night market with fire and smoke is incredibly vibrant.
Exactly. Standing at the grill is a vibrant experience, and if you are feeling brave, you look at the vendor and you ask for dala,
Extra spicy.
extra spicy. When you say that, the vendor grabs a huge handful of red chili flakes and throws them directly onto the sizzling hot fat of the meat.
I love watching this part. When the chili hits the hot fat, the fire literally leaps up from the charcoal.
It flares up, yeah.
The smoke suddenly gets thicker and slightly red. The air gets spicy. You can almost feel the heat on your face.
It completely elevates the entire snacking experience. It is not just eating dinner, it is a live performance. It is a show of fire and spice.
It really is a show. I think watching the vendor cook the meat is almost as much fun as actually eating it.
Almost.
Well, I'm sure our listeners are feeling very hungry right now.
I know I am.
But before we finish, let's make sure you have all these new descriptive English words packed into your memory and ready for your next trip to the street vendor.
Yes, let's take a moment to do a slow, friendly review.
Yeah.
We will recap the most important English concepts you learned in this deep dive.
Okay, our first major concept was charcoal. That is the black carbon rock made from slowly baked wood.
Right.
It burns intensely hot and creates a magical smoke when fat drips onto it, giving the meat a deep outdoor flavor.
Then we learned about the ratio. This is the careful balance between two things.
Mhm.
For our lamb skewers, it is the essential balance between the pieces of soft fat and the lean red meat, designed to protect the skewer from drying out.
Next was the cooking action, baste. As the skewer cooks, the heat melts the fat.
The built-in sauce dispenser.
Exactly. That hot liquid oil drips down and coats the lean meat. It automatically bastes the lamb in its own rich juices.
And because the meat is constantly basted, the result is succulent. This is the perfect word to use when food is bursting with juices, completely tender, and incredibly delicious.
We also talked about the word gamey. That is
Yeah.
the strong, wild, natural animal scent that sheep often have.
But we solve that gamey smell with cumin. And we pair the cumin with chili flakes to give the meat a kick.
A sudden, sharp, spicy surprise that wakes up your senses.
And finally, we describe the whole night market scene as vibrant, full of energy, loud noises, bright fire, and lively people.
You now have a very sophisticated, highly descriptive English vocabulary to talk about food. You can explain exactly why the skewer tastes the way it does.
But wait, we need to talk about one more very practical, very important detail.
What's that?
How do you actually order these things? Because you do not just order one.
Oh no, never.
I always have to laugh when a tourist walks up to a vendor and asks for one single skewer. Nobody in the history of the Chinese night market has ever eaten just one skewer.
It's impossible.
They are small, and they are far too delicious for that.
I completely agree. If you try to order just one or two, the vendor might look at you like you do not understand the rules.
Yeah, they will be very confused.
A real proper order for one person usually starts at 10 skewers. Yeah. Or maybe 20.
At least.
And if you are sitting at a table with a few friends and you are really hungry,
Yeah.
you might order 30 or 40 skewers at a time.
30 skewers for the table is a very good start. But you also cannot just eat the rich, succulent meat by itself.
Oh.
You need a carbohydrate to balance the heavy fat and the spicy kick. The absolute perfect pairing is to order your skewers with a side of roasted nang bread.
Oh, the nang bread is essential. It is a beautiful, round, flat bread, baked until it is slightly crispy on the outside, but soft on the inside.
Yes. And sometimes the vendor will take your hot lamb skewers and press them right into the bread while pulling the meat off the wooden sticks.
I love when they do that.
The soft inside of the bread acts like a sponge. It completely soaks up all the melted lamb fat, the toasted cumin, and the spicy chili oil.
It is the ultimate combination of textures. The slightly crispy warm bread mixed with the soft, succulent, spicy meat. It is perfect.
If we step back and connect all of these details to the bigger picture, it is truly amazing how much culture and science is packed into one simple street meal.
It really is. It is not just fast food.
No, not at all. Actually, I want to leave you, our listener, with a final, slightly provocative thought today.
Wow.
Think about this. A simple lamb skewer is actually a living culinary fossil.
Wait, a culinary fossil? What do you mean by that?
Think about the mechanics of what we just described today. Cooking pieces of natural grazing animal meat over an open, glowing wood fire
Okay.
and flavoring it with crushed natural seeds from the earth. That is the exact same technology and the exact same method that human beings used thousands and thousands of years ago.
Oh, wow.
It is one of the oldest human rituals on earth.
I have honestly never thought about it like that.
So the next time you take a bite of a lamb skewer and you taste that smoky charcoal fire and that earthy cumin flavor, I want you to remember that you aren't just eating a quick late night snack.
Right.
You are participating in ancient human history. You are tasting the vast grasslands of northwest China, and you are connecting to a tradition of fire and food that goes back to the dawn of humanity.
History on a stick. That is a truly beautiful way to look at it.
I think so too.
Well, I have to ask you, our wonderful listener, are you feeling hungry yet? Because I know I am completely starving after this conversation.
One here.
We really encourage you to go out tonight, find a vibrant night market, and try to use your new English words in your head while you wait for your food.
That is great practice.
Look at the glowing charcoal.